everyone to the series of online classes organized by ASAP. Today let us discuss about the topic Timer IC 555 and its applications from the subject Analog Integrated Circuits. The class will be handled by Dr. Jobimo Jacob ma'am. She is the professor in Department of Electronics and Communication from Model Engineering College, Trikakara, Cochin. She had done his B.Tech in Applied Electronics and Instrumentation from CET in 1992, M.Tech in Electronics from CUSAT in 2003. She had done his PhD from Electrical Engineering Department of IIT Madras in 2011 in the field of semiconductor device modeling. She had working in this field for the past 25 years. Over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Akshaya, for the introduction. And I appreciate the other team members also, Mr. Anish and Ms. Sri Lakshmi, for their very good teamwork to make this program a success. So this is the fourth lecture of the online lecture series on analog integrated circuits and the second session by me. In the last lecture taken by me, I have discussed about some of the important aspects of analog integrated circuits in the fourth module of the topic. And today we will be discussing about the fifth module, some of the important aspects of the fifth module of the subject. So the topics from first to fourth module basically deals with the fundamental aspects of operational amplifiers as well as the linear and non-linear applications of the op-amps. And in all such applications, we have come across with the general purpose integrated circuits. That is the op-amps which can be used for general applications. So, for example, IC 741 is a general purpose op-amp. And apart from this general purpose operational amplifiers, there are special purpose operational amplifier ICs also, such as timer IC 555, voltage regulator IC 723, then phase lock loop, that is PLL IC 565, and voltage control oscillator VCO 566. Such ICs are also there. These are special purpose integrated circuits available. And in this fifth module of the course on analog integrated circuits, mainly dealing with the special purpose integrated circuits. And today in this session, I am discussing about one of the popular integrated circuit, IC 555, which is commonly known as timer IC 555, which is having a very many applications. And I will be discussing about some of the applications also. So this is the outline of my talk, which is first I will discuss about the pinout and functional diagram of timer IC 555. And this IC can operate in basically two modes, that is astable mode and monostable mode. I will discuss about the principle of operation of both these stable multivibrator and as well as monostable multivibrator, as well as the time period and pulse width calculation we will discuss. And finally, I will be going through the Schmitt trigger, one of the application of time rise. So the IC 555 is a very popular IC which can produce accurate and highly stable time delays and oscillations. It is introduced by Signetics Corporation in 1972, and it can operate in mainly two modes I have already told. And the main important features of the 555 timer is it can operate with a wide power supply range. It can operate on +5 to +18 volt supply, and it can drive up to a current of 200 milliampere. That is, it can source as well as sink current of 200 milliamps. And it is compatible with TTL logic, and the duty cycle of the output waveform can be adjusted. and we can get a timing delays or time period ranging from microseconds to hours, and it is easy to use, and reliable and very low cost IC. And there are many applications, and some of them include square wave oscillator, pulse generators, time delay generation, pulse width modulation, and frequency division. So now we'll discuss about the pin diagram. So we can see there are there are many packages available, and I'm showing here the dual inline package of 8 pin. It's an 8 pin IC with the ground. We can see. So this pin. So pin number 1, 8 as well as 3 is very direct. There is no need of explaining about that diagram. There's no need of internal diagram to explain the need of that pins, because pin 1 is a ground pin, and pin 2, pin 8 is the VCC, that is the supply voltage pin. The supply voltage from plus 15 to plus 18 can be connected to pin VCC. And pin 3 is the output pin. Output is TTL compatible with which can source or sink a current of 200 milliampere. Then the other pins, pin 2 and pin 6. Pin 2 is the trigger pin and pin 6 is the threshold voltage pin. These two pins actually determines the timing operations. The voltages at these pins cause output transitions. So it is having a key role in the timing of the 555 timer. And pin 7 is the discharge pin. And to the discharge pin, we can connect an external capacitor. And internally, that pin is connected to a transistor, which can be on or off depending on the output state of the flip-flop. And pin 5 is the control flip-flop. Pin 5 is the control voltage pin. By applying an external voltage to this pin, we can control the timing of the output waveform. And pin 4 is the reset pin. The timer can be reset by applying a negative pulse to this pin, and the voltage applied at this pin, we can override the flip-flop. So we'll discuss the internal diagram, and it will be easy to understand. So this shows the functional diagram. I'll start the functional diagram of the op-amp. So the heart of the timer IC 555 is a control flip-flop, which is an SR flip-flop. So control flip-flop is set or reset depending on the output of two comparators. So these are the two comparators shown. So comparator 1 is connected to reset pin of the control flip-flop, and comparator 2 is connected to set pin of the control flip-flop. And here output of the flip-flop, you have Q and Q bar for the output. And the reference voltage to the comparators are set by 3 5 kilo ohm resistors connected from VCC to ground. And we know that, for the op-amp, the current flowing towards the terminal is negligible. So this can be considered as a potential divider arrangement. So you can see the voltage present at this point is the non-inverting terminal of the comparator 1 is 1/3 VCC, and voltage present at the inverting terminal of the comparator 1 is 2/3 VCC. So the name of 555 came from the fact that there are 3 5K resistors. So now the other pins of the comparators are connected to threshold voltage, threshold as well as trigger pin. So pin number 6 and 2. So the voltage present at the voltage applied at these two pins and the reference voltage determine the transition of the flip-flop, or based on this, the flip-flop will change its state. For example, I can explain a little more about the trigger and threshold pin. The threshold pin, suppose your threshold voltage that is the pin number 6 voltage exceeds 2/3 VCC. Comparator 1 output becomes high, so that flip-flop will reset. Because the R is 1 now, the flip-flop will reset. And suppose your trigger voltage given to pin 2 is less than 1/3 VCC. The non-inverting terminal of the comparator 2 becomes higher than the inverting terminal potential, so that the output of the comparator 2 becomes high, and this flip-flop will set. Flip-flop will set at that time. So that way you can, by connecting the capacitor or some charging device or something, you can change the flip-flop conditions, and that way you can make the time delays as well as oscillations. So we can see here the output Q bar of the flip-flop. So Q is the output and Q bar is the inverted form, and that is given to an output stage, which is a power amplifier as well as inversion takes place there. And from there you are taking the output, that is pin number 3. And the same pin, that is the same output Q bar, is connected to the base of a transistor T1. And T1, the emitter of the T1 is connected to ground, and T1 collector is connected to this discharge pin, that is pin number 7. So depending on the condition of the output, that is depending on the value of the Q bar or the output of the flip-flop, the transistor can either on or off, and based on that, a capacitor connected at this pin can be charged or discharged. So that is the basic principle of operation behind a stable and monostable multivibrator. And this is the reset input pin, that is pin number 4. And this pin actually used for resetting the flip-flop in case of any emergency or something. So in the reset pin actually overrides the control instructions from the flip-flop. So when reset input is low, the PNP transistor, the V reference is actually some reference voltage, internal reference voltage, and this is a PNP transistor. When reset pin is low, the transistor becomes on, and this will, when it is on, the transistor T1 also becomes on, and this point Q bar will become Q bar becomes high, so that Q becomes 0. So that means the flip-flop is reset. And the last pin is the control voltage pin. By applying an external reference voltage to the control voltage pin, you can change the time delays of the timer IC, because it is basically the voltage at this point is 2/3 VCC, and we can modulate it by using a control voltage at the control voltage pin. So this is the complete pinout diagram, complete functional diagram of the op-amp. And here you can, now I think you got an understanding about the different pin function of different pins of the 555 timer IC. And once we discuss the operation, one of the operations of the 555 IC, I told there are basically two modes of operation, stable as well as monostable. So we can come through that topics, so it will be more clear. So I hope I can continue discussion on stable multivibrator. So a stable multivibrator using 555 timer IC, you know that for an unstable multivibrator, there are two states which are both quasi-stable states. What is quasi-stable state? A quasi-stable state is not a stable state, but it's a temporary stable state. That state transition depends on the capacitor charging and discharging. So it is not a completely stable state, but it will remain stable for certain duration, and based on the capacitor voltage or the capacitor voltage due to its charging or discharging crosses certain reference value, it will change its state. That is the working of normal astable multivibrator. And this is also known as free-running multivibrator. And the 555 timer in astable mode can be used for generating square wave. Free-running RAM generator can be constructed using this mode of operation. Also, for FSK generation, you can use this 555 in astable mode. So this is the structure of the connection diagram of astable multivibrator using 555 IC. Here, a capacitor C is connected to VCC through two resistors RA and RB. So these are the two resistors through which the capacitor is connected to VCC. So the you can see that the capacitor, if the capacitor when it's connected, it can charge through these two resistors. And the pin, you can see the 6 and 2 pins are connected to the capacitor voltage. Capacitor voltage is connected to the 6 and 2 pins are shorted, and the capacitor voltage is connected to these two pins together. You can see in the functional diagram, you can see that these two pins serve the purpose of applying signals to the comparator inputs. So these 6 and 2 are actually the input to the comparators. So now pin 7 is connected to the joining point of RA and RB is connected to pin 7. Pin 7 is actually the discharge pin. So you can see once the transistor is on, the capacitor can discharge through this transistor. Okay. So also, if the transistor is off, the capacitor can charge through these two resistors. So now I'll explain the astable operation in detail. So here you can see that this is the diagram. Here we know that the fourth pin is actually the reset pin, and if it is not used as for the reset purpose, it should be connected to. It's an active low pin. So if it is not used, it should be connected to supply voltage, that is VCC, and 8th pin is the supply voltage, and pin number 1 is the ground pin, and pin 5 is actually the control voltage pin. And if you are not using the control voltage externally, you have to use a 0.01 μ of capacitor there connected from that point to ground to bypass any ripples or noise, high frequency noise from the supply voltage. It should not, then it will not affect the operation of the system. And RA and RB is connected. RA is connected from 8, and RA and RB is connected to the capacitor from the supply voltage. So now, initially when the capacitor voltage is 0, suppose initially the capacitor is voltage is at 0 voltage, pin 2 and 6 is 0. So because capacitor is directly connected to pin 2 and 6, so these two voltages are at 0. So pin 2, when pin 2 as well as 6 are 0, you can see that the comparator 2, that is the trigger pin, when it is at 0 voltage, comparator 2, non-inverting terminal of the comparator 2 is having 1/3 VCC. So it is having non-inverting terminal of comparator 2 is having higher potential. So the output of comparator 2 is 1, and since pin 6 is connected to non-inverting terminal of the first comparator, this value will be 0, and here inverting terminal is 2/3 VCC. The output of the first comparator will be 0, and second. So you can see the output of first comparator is 0, second comparator is 1, so that the control flip-flop is in set condition. So when flip-flop is set, Q bar is 0. When Q bar is 0, the Q bar is directly connected to the base of the transistor T1. So transistor T1 becomes off. Transistor remains in, will be in the off condition. So when transistor T1 is off, you can see the capacitor C is connected to this point, and the capacitor C can, so there is no discharging path when the internal transistor is off. So the capacitor can charge through this path. So the charging path is shown here. So the capacitor is charging through RA and RB. So that is shown by the waveform here. So when the output is set means the timer output is in the high condition. So here the output is high. Here you can see that the capacitor is starting to charge. And now suppose the capacitor crosses 1/3 VCC. These are the reference voltages. So suppose the capacitor crosses 1/3 VCC, what happens? We will discuss that. So if the capacitor voltage crosses 1/3 VCC, you can see the comparator 1 remains in the same condition because comparator 1 non-inverting potential is less than the inverting potential and R is equal to 0. And for the comparator 2, when the trigger, when the pin 2 value is greater than 1/3 VCC, comparator 2 output becomes 0. So now R and S both are 0. That is S equal to R equal to 0. And that is the memory condition. You all know about the SR flip-flop. This is the memory condition for the SR flip-flop. So the control flip-flop remain in the previous condition. That is, it remains set. And when it is in set condition, we know that the T1 is off. T1 remains in the off condition, and the capacitor will continue to charge. The capacitor charging will continue. Now we'll check the other reference level. When the capacitor voltage crosses this level, what happens? So when it crosses 2/3 VCC, that voltage will come at both trigger as well as threshold voltage, because that capacitor is directly connected to 6 and 2. So now we can see that when this happens, that is when the capacitor voltage is greater than 2/3 VCC, so this point is having higher voltage compared to this point. Also, S will be in 0 condition. And when the threshold pin having a higher potential means the non-inverting terminal of the first comparator is high, so that the reset input of the control, this output becomes high, so that reset becomes 1, R is equal to 1 and S equal to 0, so that the control flip-flop is reset. So now what happens if Q is reset? Q 0 means Q bar 1. When Q bar is 1, the transistor T1 becomes on, because that voltage comes to the base of the transistor and T1 becomes on. When transistor T1 becomes on, this point, that is discharge point, is connected to the, that is actually the collector of the transistor T1. So this capacitor can discharge through the internal transistor, and the discharging path, there is only one resistor involved, that is a RB alone. So the on resistance of the transistor can be negligible, it can be neglected. So this is the internal transistor T1, and this shows the discharging path of the capacitor, that is shown in this waveform. So capacitor will discharge. Now, while discharging, when VC reaches 1/3 VCC, so now when during the discharge, when VC capacitor voltage crosses 1/3 VCC, now what happens when this crosses 1/3 VCC, trigger 2 input is less than 1/3 VCC here. That is, the non-inverting terminal voltage is higher than the inverting terminal voltage, and comparator 2 output becomes 1. So S equal to 1 and R equal to 0. So the flip-flop will be in set condition. So now, once it got set, once the flip-flop is set, Q bar is equal to 0. When Q bar is equal to 0, T1 becomes off. When T1 is off, the discharging stops and the capacitor again charges. So the discharge here, the discharging of the capacitor will be stopped and the capacitor will again charges towards VCC. So this way the process continues and produces free running oscillations. So this is the working of a stable multivibrator, and the entire operation I have included in one slide. You can refer. And the time period of the stable multivibrator can be derived from the basic capacitor charging equation. We know that the capacitor charging equation is V C equal to V final plus V initial minus V final into e raised to minus T by RC. And for T is equal to TH, that is this charging period I am considering here, that is 1/3 VCC to 2/3 VCC. The capacitor charging from 1/3 to 2/3 VCC. So initial value is 1/3 VCC and final value towards the capacitor charging is VCC, and it in between at T is equal to TH, it reaches the maximum value of 2/3 VCC. It will reach the value 2/3 VCC. So by substituting that, you can get an expression that is TH is equal to RC log 2, that is 0.69 RC. And in the charging part, we have seen the resistors involved are RA and RB. And in the discharging, so your time period, time for on time or the high pulse will be 0.69 RA plus RB into C. And for discharging, there is only one resistor involved, that is RB. So the discharging time, that is the the pulse width for low pulse is actually 0.69 RB into C. So total time period is equal to TH plus TL is equal to 0.69 RA plus 2 RB into C. So here in this case, we will get only unequal pulse time width, because one case there is two resistors involved. So charging time is always greater than the discharging time. So in order to get a stable multivibrator with a 50% duty cycle, you have to use such an arrangement. Across RB, we can connect a diode in this direction, so that during charging, it will pass, the capacitor will charge only through RA, and the on diode, this will be acting as a forward bias. When charging process takes place, the diode will be forward biased. So the charging path will be RA, E and C. And the discharging time, the diode will be reverse biased, so that this discharging takes place through RB alone. And if RA equal to RB, if we can make the RA equal to RB, we can get 50% duty cycle. So this diagram shows the charging and discharging of the capacitor for getting 50% duty cycle, that is equal width for on and off pulse.
We have two questions here.
Yeah. Tell me.
Could you please explain the trigger and threshold pin once more?
Okay, I will explain. First, this is the stable multivibrator circuit. Here, the two voltages are given to the voltage. The capacitor charging voltage is given to. Capacitor is directly connected to 6 and 2 pins of the 555 timer. So the threshold pin 6 actually represents the connected to the non-inverting terminal of the first comparator. And as you know, the comparator, once it crosses the reference level to the comparator 1 is set as 2/3 VCC, and reference level of this, hello,
Ma'am.
Can I continue?
Yes, ma'am. You can.
Okay. And reference level to the second comparator is set as 1/3 VCC and connected to in non-inverting terminal of the comparator 2. So you can see once the threshold pin voltage exceeds the voltage at the comparator 1, that is the reference voltage 2/3 VCC. If it is above that value, the flip-flop can change its state. You can see that in this diagram. So whenever the threshold voltage at this pin exceeds 2/3 VCC, you can see that the non-inverting terminal of the comparator 1 is having higher voltage compared to the inverting terminal, so that the output of the comparator becomes high. So that means R is equal to 1, so that it will reset. And here in this case, obviously the S value will be here. For this circuit, we know that the trigger value is also, trigger pin also is connected to the capacitor voltage. So this voltage is also will be having 2 by 3, it will also exceed 2 by 3 VCC. So when it is, when the voltage at pin 2 exceeds 2 by 3 VCC means this point is having a lower potential compared to inverting terminal potential of comparator 2. So the output of this will be at 0, because inverting terminal is now for the comparator 2, inverting terminal is having higher voltage. So S equal to 0 and R is equal to 1, so that the control flip-flop will reset. When it resets, the Q bar becomes high and this becomes on, so that the capacitor will discharge. So that is the basic operation of threshold pin. And trigger pin in the monostable mode, we are directly connecting the trigger pin to the trigger input. Is it clear now? I hope it is clear.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Ma'am, there is one more question.
Yes.
Here, the charging the timing capacitor is non-linear. Could you kindly explain? Could you kindly explain as to who we could make it linear charging? How we could make it linear charging?
Okay, for making the linear, the RC value should be, so it should be high value. If you are placing high value for RC, it can be a more linear one. So because RC, the time constant, RC, if whenever your RC time constant is very small, it will be having very fast charging. And if the RC time constant is slow enough, it will be having, you can get a slow charging. So that way you can get the linear charging waveform. Or otherwise, some linear charging arrangements, constant current charging or some sort of charging can be adopted in normal cases to get the linear waveform. That way also you can get linear charging waveform. Now I'll discuss about the monostable operation. So the monostable multivibrator. So we have in the last class also we were discussing about the monostable multivibrator using operational amplifiers, and we know that the monostable operation, there are one stable state and one quasi-stable state, and for changing from the stable state to quasi-stable state, always a trigger pulse is required, and the quasi-stable duration is determined by the capacitor charging. Through a capacitor charging, the quasi-stable period will, state will change, and it is also known as one shot, because one trigger is required to change to one state. So that the applications of monostable mode include time delay circuit, gating circuit, frequency divider, linear arm generator, pulse width modulation, missing pulse detector, pulse structure, and so on. So there are lot many applications for this mode also. And for when you are using the 555 timer as a monostable multivibrator, you can connect that to this is the connection diagram of the monostable multivibrator. A capacitor C is connected through a resistor R to VCC, and the capacitor voltage is directly given to pin 6 and 7. Pin 6 is the threshold voltage pin and pin 7 is the discharge pin. So the capacitor is directly connected to, in this case, apart from the stable multivibrator, here the capacitor is directly connected to pin 6, whereas in the case of unstable, the capacitor is connected to pin 6 through a, or pin 7, the discharge pin through a resistor. Here the capacitor is directly connected to pin 7. And the pin 2 is the trigger pin. So trigger is normally, the trigger is basically a negative going trigger. So normal case trigger signal will be at high condition, that is it will be maintained at VCC, And when trigger comes, it will be a negative going signal. That is, it will change from VCC to a lower value, to 0 value. So now here also the same connections are there. One is ground and 5 is connected through to ground through a capacitor of 0.01 mA. And the fourth pin, that is the reset pin, is connected to VCC. So now I'll explain the detailed operation. I'll explain a detail. So the stable state of the flip-flop, that is the stable state of the monostable multivibrator, is the output low. The output of the 555 low, that means the flip-flop output will be in the reset condition. So flip-flop is reset. So when the flip-flop is reset, we can see that when the flip-flop is reset, Q is 0, Q bar is high. When Q bar is high, you can see the capacitor T1 is on. When the capacitor, the transistor T1 is on. When the transistor T1 is on, a capacitor connected from the pin 7 to ground, that will be always in the discharged condition. The capacitor will be in the discharged condition since the transistor is on. So the capacitor voltage will be in 0. The capacitor voltage will remain in 0 condition. And that voltage is connected to pin 6. And that voltage that is connected to pin 6. So this point can see a 0 voltage. So you can see when this is 0, the comparator 1 output is low because 6th pin is having lower potential compared to this reference voltage, that is non-inverting pin. So the output of this will be low, that is R is equal to 0. And at the same time, you can see the trigger input is, before there is a trigger applied, that is trigger will be at high voltage. So this is the trigger signal. So once trigger is applied, that will be a negative going signal. So before that, the trigger pin will be at VCC. So the comparator 2 will be having higher potential at the inverting terminal. So that the output of comparator 2 is also in 0. That is, S is also 0. So R is equal to 0, S equal to 0. This will remain in the previous condition. That is, the stable state will remain in that condition unless a trigger signal comes. So it will remain in that condition. So now we will see the action of the trigger signal. And the capacitor, since this is the discharge, the transistor is on condition, capacitor is in the discharge condition, capacitor voltage remain in the 0 level. We can see the output also will be the reset condition, output also will be in the 0 condition. And this is the status of the trigger signal, that is high. Now a trigger, negative going trigger, the trigger signal goes down. You can see this is the trigger action of the trigger signal. So once the trigger signal is applied to the second terminal, that is second pin 2 of the 555 timer, here when the trigger value crosses 1/3 VCC, so this is the one reference level, that is 1/3 VCC. When the trigger crosses this 1/3 VCC value, what happens to the comparator 2? The 1/3, the non-inverting terminal is having a constant potential of 1/3 VCC. And when the trigger value crosses the 1/3 VCC, that is less than 1/3 VCC, the comparator 2 output becomes high because non-inverting terminal of the comparator 2 is now at a higher potential compared to inverting terminal. So the comparator 2 output becomes high. So S equal to 1 and R remains in the same condition because capacitor is again in the uncharged condition. So 6 is having 0 voltage. So R remains in 0. So S equal to 1 and R equal to 0. The flip-flop will set. The flip-flop output becomes high. Q becomes 1 and Q bar becomes 0. When Q bar is 0, T1 becomes off because that is connected to base of the transistor. T1 becomes off. When T1 is off, there is no discharging through the transistor. The capacitor can now charge. So the capacitor capacitor is connected to VCC through the resistor R. Now the capacitor can charge through the resistor R. So here you can see the waveforms, the output waveform that is at set condition. At when the trigger signal crosses 1/3 VCC, the output of the 555 timer goes high. That is, it is changing from 0 to VCC. And now we can see at this point when it happens, that time the capacitor is because of the transistor T1 becoming off, the capacitor will be starting its charging process. And this determines the quasi-stable operation. Now, upon removal of the trigger signal, suppose this low value, the trigger again becomes high. What happens? The comparator 2 the input to the comparator 2, that is trigger input to the comparator 2 becomes high. So S becomes again 0. S equals to 0, and this the threshold, when since the capacitor voltage not reaching this threshold level, threshold pin also having lower potential to this, so R is also remaining in the low state. So S equal to R equal to 0. The flip-flop remains in the previous condition, that is, it remains in the output high condition, so that the transistor T1 is off, so the capacitor can continue its charging. So the charging of C continues. Now we can see once the capacitor voltage crosses 2/3 VCC. So assume that the capacitor voltage is greater than VC is crosses 2/3 VCC. The capacitor voltage is connected to 6th pin. So when it is greater than 2/3 VCC, that is the voltage coming to the pin 6 is greater than 2/3 VCC, we can see that the comparator 1 output becomes 1. That is, reset pin becomes 1, and obviously you know that the trigger input is high, so comparator 2 is remaining in the low state. That is, S equal to 0 and R is equal to 1, and when R is equal to 1, flip-flop will be reset. So that will be in the reset condition. When it is reset, Q bar is equal to 1 and T1 transistor becomes on. When T1 is on, the capacitor can quickly discharge through the transistor T1. So this is the discharging path. So capacitor can suddenly discharge through the internal transistor connected at present at pin number 7. So the capacitor, there is no resistors involved in the discharging path. The discharging will be very fast. You can see there is only on resistance of the transistor is involved, so that is very small. So the discharging will be very fast. You can see the such that action. So now this will continue. Now the stable state, it again reached in the stable state of the monostable multi. Now till the next trigger comes, it remains in that stable condition. So only after the application of the next trigger pulse, the monostable can change its state. So this is the action of the monostable multivibrator. By using this monostable, you can produce time delays or gating circuits. And this can be considered as a pulse stretcher also. By applying a trigger signal, you can stretch the width of the pulse. So there are not many applications also. Now this is the complete picture of the operation of the monostable multivibrator. You can refer later. And the pulse width of the monostable multivibrator can be derived from the basic capacitor charging equation. Here you can see that this is the monostable operation. This is the pulse width for the monostable operation that determines the quasi-stable operation of the flip-flop, and that can be designed. So any pulse width can be designed by using this expression. So this is also, you can see that in this case also you can see that where capacitor starting voltage of the capacitor charging is 0, and the last when at t is equal to t, that is the duration of the pulse width, it will be at 2/3 VCC. So VC equal to 2/3 VCC, V initially equal to 0, and P final, that is the voltage to which the capacitor is trying to charge is VCC. The P final value is VCC. By applying, by substituting these values in the capacitor charging basic equation, you can get the expression for time period of the pulse width, that is T is equal to RC log 3, that is equal to 1.1 RC. So this is the pulse width for the monostable operation that is determined by the external components R and C. So now we'll quickly go through the Schmitt-Trigger application of 555. So as you know, the Schmitt-Trigger is basically a circuit which compares the input signal coming at the input of the circuit with certain reference levels. One is upper threshold voltage and the other one is the lower threshold voltage. And based on the signal transition, or when the signal exceeds, or when the input signal exceeds these reference values, so crosses these reference values, the output switches between high and low. So the Schmitt-Trigger can be used to convert a sine wave to square wave. Also, in this 555 timer IC, we know that the reference voltages are 2/3 VCC, that stands for upper threshold voltage, and 1/3 VCC, that is the lower threshold voltage. And output switches between, the output voltage transitions are between these VCC and 0. So this is the circuit of the Schmitt-Trigger. So here, actually two resistors, here in the circuit, two resistors R1 and R2 are connected as a potential divider arrangement. And here R1 is same as R2. Say R1 will be equal to R2, equal valued resistors are connected to provide a reference level of half VCC. We are providing a reference level. Already a bias voltage of half VCC is given at this point, and that point is connected to pin 6 and pin 2. Pin 6 and pin 2 are the comparator inputs. So that reference, that bias level is already maintained at that points, these two pins, by using two resistors, equal valued resistors, so that it will be 1/3 VCC. Actually, this 1/3 VCC is the midway between the middle value of 1/3, half VCC is the mid value of 1/3 VCC and 2/3 VCC. And here at this point we are applying the signal. We'll explain the operation. So at this point, when I am applying the signal at this point, it will override on the bias value, that is half VCC. So you can see this is the waveform. So here this is the bias value of half VCC, and it is the signal value. Signal value is above the bias value. So the signal can cross these two reference levels, 2/3 VCC and 1/3 VCC. So here the capacitor is used for blocking any DC values. So here at this point we are giving the signal value along with the bias value. So this is the voltage applied to 6 and 2 input pins, and we know that already the reference voltages to the two comparators are 2/3 VCC and 1/3 VCC. We can see. So when the sine wave crosses this value, that is crosses 2/3 VCC, and we know that the sine wave should have a sufficient amplitude that should be greater than 1/6 VCC. That is the difference between these two levels. Then only it will work. Otherwise, it will be, if the peak value is less than this level, there will not be any crossover. So that is the minimum amplitude for the sine wave. And when the sine wave crosses this 2/3 VCC, you can see that the sixth pin will be having a higher voltage. So, and pin 2 is also having the same voltage, so that the comparator when pin 2 is having higher voltage, here we can see the comparator 2 is having 0, S equal to 0. And when pin 6 is having a higher value compared to 2 by 3 VCC, non-inverting terminal having higher voltage, so output of the comparator 1 is high. That is, the flip-flop output will be reset, or the flip-flop will reset, the output will go low. So this is the output of the comparator, output of the 555 timer that time. So when this crossover happens, the output becomes 0. The output becomes 0. And when the output becomes 0, so we know when the output of this comparator is 0, so that time again the signal value increases, and till this point reaches, we know that the comparator will be having the same status. And once it crosses this point, we can see that when the threshold voltage pin is having a voltage less than this value, then also R is equal to 0 and S equal to 0. So both, that is, it will remain in the previous condition. So both R and S are 0. It will remain in the previous condition, that is the memory state, so that the output remain in the previous condition till it crosses 1 by 3 VCC. So suppose the signal crosses 1 by 3 VCC. When the signal crosses 1 by 3 VCC, that is the signal value less than 1 by 3 VCC, you can see the trigger input pin, that is 2. Pin 2 is having a lesser value compared to 1/3 VCC, that is the non-inverting voltage. So the non-inverting terminal of the comparator 2 is at a higher voltage compared to inverting terminal. So S is equal to 1. The comparator 2 output becomes high, and S equal to 1 and R equal to 0, so that flip-flop will set. So when the flip-flop is set, will be in the set condition, you can see that the output is going to high value. And it will remain in this state till the next trigger, next crossing of the input signal to the 2 by 3 VCC value. Even if the value, the signal crosses this value, it will remain in the memory condition. So that is S equal to R equal to 0. And the same condition can remain till this point. And once it crosses 2 by 3 VCC, you can see that again the same transition takes place, that the threshold, that the output will be in the reset condition. That is, the this process is, this output becomes high, so R is equal to 1, so S equal to 0 and R equal to 1, so that it again comes into the reset condition. So that is, the output is low. So this is the working of the Schmitt-Trigger circuit. By this, we can see that we can convert a sine wave to a square wave, and it can be used as a level comparator also. So these are the topics which I wanted to complete. Thank you for your patient listening. Any questions?
Ma'am, ഒരു question വന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്.
Okay.
In Schmitt trigger, is it pin 7 connected to VCC?
Pin 7, okay, pin 7 is not actually involved in the circuit. Actually, it cannot be connected to VCC once it, so it cannot be connected to VCC, because once when it is, if we are connecting that to VCC, whenever the transition takes place, it will make the on and off of the transistor takes place. So when transistor becomes on and off, so it may be connected to, normally it can be connected to ground, or so it is not connected to VCC.
Okay, ma'am. Another question.
Okay.
Why AP is connected pin 5 of 555 timer?
Pin 5 or 555 is connected to, actually the purpose of the pin 5 is to provide an external control voltage to adjust the time period or the width of the pulses. We can adjust by, otherwise it is having only 2/3 VCC present at pin 5. It can be controlled, or any modulation voltage can be given to control voltage input pin to vary the time period of time period of oscillation, I mean, or the pulse width of the in monostable operation. So that can be that
Why
if it is
capacity is connected nana?
okay, I will explain. So normally the purpose of pin 5 is that we can use it as a modulating voltage pin to vary the output pulse width and all externally. But in this case, what we are if we are not using that pin 5 externally, we are not leaving it as such. We are connecting it to ground potential, I mean, through a capacitor of 0.01 mF to ground to bypass any high frequency noise signals or supply voltage fluctuations. So ripples coming in the supply voltage, that will be having an effect on this point also. So suppose you have some ripples in the supply voltage, so that will affect the voltage present at this point. That is 2/3 VCC also, that reference voltage also will get fluctuated. So in order to bypass that fluctuations, say high frequency signal will be bypassed through, the capacitor will be acting as a short, so that will be bypassed to ground with that capacitor. So that is the purpose of the capacitor connection.
So thank you students for watching the
Okay.
session, and I really thank you ma'am. Explanation about I don't know what message. Thank you so much.
Oh, okay, thank you.